All right, we are live. Howdy, guys.
Aloha.
What up?
All right, intros. This is episode 0 of Project Podcast.
Episode 0.5.
Very dedicated.
0.5.
Very dedicated professionals. We had a rehearsal earlier today.
If you could call it that.
Hey, it's pretty good. All right.
Yeah.
I am Daftat. I've been in the competitive scene since 2009. I've been playing Smash since I was 5, 1999, since Smash 64 came out. It's been consistently in my console every generation, all the time, my whole life. In Brawl, I played Zero Suit Samus, and once Brawl kind of died out, or not died out, but died down, and it wasn't as available where I was living, I kind of took a break, heard about the Smash documentary, started watching the season, or just the Melee tournament series leading up to EVO, and God, Smash documentary dropped, I was in again. It became my life again. I was so excited. It made the true transition to this like undying sport. The people involved, just the Melee community really exploded, and I rode that train for a little while, and then about like 4 months after EVO, I was like, I want to play Smash, and then I was like, what should I play? What's near me? And I reached out on Smash boards, and one of the head PM developers, Shattuck, was like, oh, you should play PM. And so we started hanging out and playing, and God, he just destroyed me. I was a Brawl player, and I played Zero Suit Samus thinking, oh, things will translate. They didn't quite, but over time, I got learned, what character suits my playstyle. I started picking up Squirtle. If you are in the Squirtle community, you may have heard of me more likely than anywhere else. Got my Squirtle shirt on. It says deal with it. I ran TO for my local scene, and then I run the video game club here at the State College in Olympia, and we do Smash tournaments for an anime convention every year. And I'm looking to start the scene up a little bit more in Olympia. I've been a little caught up, but I'm definitely excited to take an active role in the PM community as much as I can through this podcast and just doing stuff behind the scenes because I can't travel very much. Yep, and that's me. That's Daftat.
I guess I'll start off next. I'm Bounty X Hunted. My name's Bryce Lambert. I've been playing for about 2 years. Been dedicated to the competitive scene for about a year now. And I started playing. I used to run like casual tournaments, now that I think about it, for Brawl, and I was the best in my neighborhood. And yeah, like everybody was the best in their neighborhood, and then I was so good that people would just not play with me, and so I would.
No one could grab a maximum tomato like you could.
No, well, I would like look up the rule sets on Smash boards, but we had none of the tech for Brawl, none of everything for Brawl, but we would just play tournaments. And I was the best, but since I was so good, nobody would play with me. And so I would spend a lot of my days just sitting there practicing different characters, doing different things, doing all that just to get better at Brawl. And then a month or two after that, there's this YouTube channel called Junebug. And if you are familiar with that channel, they did a series.
Oh, you're breaking up.
So I'll just get back to my story. And so I completely forgot about PM for about a year. And then I started watching Melee competitive videos because I subscribed to r/Smash Bros for, of course, Smash 4. And then every single day there was a supply of Melee content, and I just watched them, and the way the characters move was so amazing. The way the combos worked, the way they connected together, I was just completely floored by it. So then since I lost my copy of Melee, and all I had was Brawl, and I was like, what was that one game that I saw about a year ago that was super amazing? And then I remembered it was Project M. And it just so happened that like a week ahead, there was this podcast called Show Me Your News, and it was doing a thing on the next update for Project M. And so I watched that. It was the Meta Knight update for 2.6. I was hyped, downloaded Project M 2.5 that day, played in my heart's content, and fell in love with Smash again because I fell a little bit out of love of Smash because of Brawl. And I've been playing ever since. Used to main Mewtwo, 9th place at my first tournament, but that was like the month after 3.0 came out, and I literally just cheesed people because people didn't know the matchup. And then I started doing bad with Mewtwo, so then I switched over to Wolf and loving every second of it.
Great.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm Escalator Boy, Dean. I'm here in Calgary, Alberta. Shout outs to Alberta. So my history with Smash is a little bit different. I've spent most of my career as more of an observer and a fan of the game. I played since '64. I'd meet up at my friend's house before school every day and do the 4-person free-for-alls, and it was great. Oh yeah. And then when Melee came out, I remember as a casual player, I didn't really like it at first. It was almost a little bit too fast for me. I think maybe I was a little bit too young to really, appreciate the game. Now maybe I'm a little bit too old, but now it's my brother really got into Melee at first, and he sort of started up the first tournament scene here in Calgary and doing the first bi-weeklies and combo videos, and he had a crew, the Pro Impact players. They're still around. They're not as active as they used to be, but yeah, my brother's a mad good Luigi player. And yeah, he can still body me with Luigi. But I never really got into it around that time. I think around the time my brother was starting to get into Melee and doing, the bigger tournaments and stuff like that, Brawl was just about to come out. We did this tournament called At Melee's, and Kage ended up winning that one. And it was, that was the biggest tournament we'd done in, central Western Canada at the time. And then, Brawl came out, and it's sort of, the community itself sort of hitched on to Brawl a little bit more, and then my brother and his crew sort of fell out. And I'm the little brother. I'm just going to be following my brother around doing what he does, and so I sort of lost interest as well. But I never forgot a lot of those techniques. And I played a little bit of Brawl, but I was a little bit disappointed. I couldn't wave dash, and it was fun, but I was already a little bit too old at that point to have a crew of friends that were just playing the game. So as a casual experience, and coming from a casual background, I never really got into it very deeply because I was just a bit too old. So then I think I started watching competitive Melee around, probably around Kings of Cali 2. VG Bootcamp started streaming a little bit more, and I did. I think the thing that really brought me back into it though was I saw the demo for Project M 2.0, and I was like, finally, this is the sequel. This is it. I can wave dash again. This is great. And and that's really the only technique I knew. I knew how to wave dash. I knew a little bit how to out cancel, but I just enjoyed the movement options. And that's probably one of the main reasons I never really stuck around with Brawl. It's just it was maybe a little bit too slow for me. I'm not very good at the mental game. I've always sort of relied more on technique, I guess. And I've learned Smash like I learned to play an instrument. I learned, the technical aspects of it. I didn't really know how to play the songs yet, but I could play the instrument. And so I got into Project M 2.0. Evo happened, documentary happened. The rest is history. I've been a fan of Melee. I've been a fan of the entire Smash scene, which has only grown and gotten more accepting, I guess, and more friendly as it's gone on, and more integrated now that the internet is such a huge thing. So really excited to move on and see what 3.5 and the future of Project M brings us, and of course the future of Melee and the future of Smash in general. It's a really rich environment to be in, even though I'm a little too old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So
that's us.
Yeah.
That's us.
This is the crew. But we're missing actually 2 members. So we're missing Time Muffin, PhD. He is from Ireland. He is a Wolf main as well. He actually went to Beast 5, and he will be back on episode 1 to talk about his events at Beast 5. He played with Mango and PM, and so that'll be an interesting thing to listen to if you're into Beast 5 next week. And then we are missing also Brandon from Long Island, New York. He is a TO. and he also has a YouTube channel, and he's a Rob PM player, top Rob PM player, I believe, in Long Island. Anyways, that's the crew. That's us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the record, I'm a pure Sheik main ever since Melee. So you can start complaining about my gimps and my
hashtag gimps, hashtag long legs.
I'm in Washington, by the way. I've been in the West Coast scene, through SoCal, NorCal, Eugene, Portland, and GC monthlies are kind of the Washington thing. Yeah, I'm a Squirtle main in Project M. I play almost everyone in PM, but if I were to enter a tournament, I would play Squirtle because movement is my thing, and that's what I enjoy doing. In Melee, I'm actually a Game & Watch main, and I made it...
9 hype.
I made it... No, I'm not even without 9. It's just I made it decently through a lot of Melee brackets of Game & Watch, but I always just crutch on Mark if I'm actually, if I realize that someone's actually, going to just destroy Game & Watch from the edge guarding. Anyway, yeah, so what is the podcast? It's, basically, going into this year, 2015, the PM community has kind of undergone a bit of a shakeup, bit of a shock.
Yeah, a bit of a
there's some
culture
controversy
shock,
out
yeah.
there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of concern within the community as far as how, I guess, our exclusion from some of the Melee community events, like Apex, the whole Apex circuit, which is a huge amount of majors.
Mm-hmm.
Although looking at these 5, they stream PM and it was great. We still have support from the Melee community, but it's finally time that we've started to realize
the training wheels have come off of
Yeah.
PM, and we need to start riding on our own 2 wheels.
Yeah, exactly. We've, for so long, Melee being really the only Smash game to ever build a community, substantial community of networking, people who can organize tournaments, over, decade and a half. They've supported almost every other Smash game. Early on, they did Smash 64, that was their side event, and then Brawl came, and then the whole scene kind of tapered off a little bit, and then EVO came back, and they were looking for a side event, and they picked PM up. And, it's been fantastic what the Melee community has done for us, but as the PM community, and being really, that's where we thrived, was the Melee scene, the Melee tournaments, the people that gave us an opportunity to play our game. I guess we've associated ourselves with the Melee community, and when we get excluded, or when I guess they're not facilitating what we want for our scene, we get offended, we get upset, or we get concerned about the future. But really, the fundamental point of all these, what's been happening recently, is that the Melee scene is its own set of people who are focused on Melee, and that's what they want to do. And they're not against PM, but they're ultimately not going to sacrifice for their own game, for their own sport, for the future of Melee, to keep supporting PM, even though they're not going to drop support. But it's really that PM needs to organize itself. The people who love the game, who main the game, needs to start getting together. What's the title of the episode?
The title of the episode is Cameron, a couple nights ago, said when I first made the post about the podcast, said this to describe the PM community is that we're 1,000 islands, no boats, and that's what we're going to try to do with the Project Podcast. Is that we're going to try to make those boats so we can visit all the islands of the Project M scene.
Yeah, and as far as I really want to stress, the podcast it's not about us. It's not about the 3 people here on the podcast. It's about purely just reporting on and reaching out to the scene, parts of the community that don't get light shine on it. Britain, Australia, the Midwest. Outside of Dallas-Fort Worth area and Texas. Alabama, Georgia, everywhere that they have great players. The PM community is huge. It's been downloaded hundreds of thousands of times. So people are out there, and the capacity to move the scene forward, the community forward, and build upon it with dedicated tournaments and series and maybe some national championships someday. It's out there. It's just you need to connect the dots to get the whole picture, to get the strength of the community is nothing unless we all come together, or unless we start talking to each other. Someone from SoCal needs to know the TO up in NorCal. People from Eastern Washington need to know people from Western Washington. It's your local scene is limited to just that. Local TOs, as long as they don't communicate and collaborate with people outside of their local scene, they'll be forever limited, as PM is, to 1,000 small islands, as opposed to a community of 1,000 islands, which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can already see that the community itself is bubbling up to the surface. You can see it on the subreddit. You can see it in the tournaments, and you can see it on Smash boards. People are excited about this game. They're not losing interest in this game. There's maybe a few naysayers out there, but for the most part, this scene is just ready to explode and ready to take control of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, taking the training wheels off. I mean, this podcast is really going to be sort of a central hub for that in a way. Like we want to interface with a lot of different TOs and a lot of different communities all across the world, and show what they can do, and share tournament bracket results and gather data, like like you were saying, you want to be the Tafikins of this whole thing, if you're good enough at the puns, that is. But you can. We're in a situation where this scene is ready to take control of itself. So why not? Let's take this as a something of a starting point. Not that the history of this game doesn't matter or anything. We're going to be focusing on that as well. But when you think about the way the Melee scene has developed itself, we have a lot of examples from the Melee scene and from the grassroots tournament scene in general on what to do, what not to do. Make sure we get records of everything, and so we have a story to tell. And I think that might be one of the main things that's been lacking Project M. We have no shortage of hype. Sorry about that. Still coming through.
You're good.
You're fine now.
You're good. Yeah.
Okay. We have no shortage of hype. We have no shortage of highlights. We have no shortage of streams, although I would like to see some more streams. But what we really need is to tell the story, and we need to. I think that's one thing that Melee has above any other of the games is there's a history to that. There's a story to that. You watch the documentary. We've all seen it by now. Project M is developing those stories right now, and it's really exciting to be on the ground floor of that. And I think it's a great idea to put a spotlight on that, and I'm excited to do it.
There's this great Smashboards post on the Project M general discussion. It's called the Ken era, and it's equating that Project M is in its baby steps that we're equivalent to Melee, where they were during the Ken era, where we have these dominating players and the tech is starting to develop, the metagame is starting to mature, and we're just starting to become a legitimate community.
Yeah, and unto ourselves, and like less tied to existing communities such as Melee. Of course, there will always be crossover from PM to Melee, because it's just people. Communities are made of people, and if there's both games, I'm gonna play both games because I love both games. But like going back to Smash and the documentary and the history and the stories that they have to tell, like the reason Melee is such a good esport is it's not what makes a great esport is not the game. It's the people who organize and who make the events, and like basically there are some things in Melee over the last decade and a half that reached like legend status among the communities. People just reference back. Like even things recently, like KOC3. I remember Flying Amanita making the Sopo comeback. That's still huge.
It's going to be a legend. So this is just us marking our legends. We need to start doing work.
Yeah, if people don't collect the stories and report on what's happening, then all these great moments in our community will be either not necessarily lost, but they won't be told to most of the community. They'll be limited to the local scene. Everything.
Yeah, there's already some great rivalries brewing up, and that's another thing we don't get the spotlight shone on a lot of the time. We get a lot of highlights, like I said, but not a whole lot of rivalry and a lot of story.
Yeah, and that requires, like I said, like a Tafikins level long-term. You have to identify top players in each scene. Tracking their progress, their matches versus other top players over time. Getting results, and that's that's what I'm going to start doing, and that's really my passion, is just collecting statistics. I don't know why I find that so great, but it's building from what we have, moving forward, and we just want to be able to, we want to have something that we can look back on, like a year from now, look back and see what was 2015 like, and I don't want it to just be the big streams that were up. You know, I don't want it to just be Dallas Fort Worth, which is tourney locator, like Cephalon and Lunchables had a Roy Ditto, another Roy Ditto. You know, and first off, tourney locator is amazing. I'm not trying to mine, however,
Yeah,
the great job
TO.
they're doing. Yeah, but it's just that, you know, I want 2015 to be a story about all of Project M, and not just the parts that have the, you know, brightest light being shined on them. This is about exposing and covering the community as a whole, and not just the parts of the community that have the most resources to expose themselves. And that's why we really want to reach out to tournament operators in their local regions, people who run the power rankings. We want to find top players. We're going to have guests on to interview them. Bryce, who's the guest for next week?
It's a good time to announce it, I guess. Next week we have confirmed Junebug is going to be here. We still don't have all the details figured out, but he said he would love to be on the podcast. So next week he is going to be our guest.
Classic East Coast Ganon player from MDVA. He's played lots of characters, of course, but Ganon's on the up and up in 3.5, and I'm excited to see where
Project
that goes.
Manendorf.
Yeah. All right. Everyone ready to move on to the really the big issue that's been.
I'm good to move on.
All right.
Yeah, we'll touch on it.
Yeah. So everyone, there's been a lot of concern and a lot of discussion recently on both r/Smash Bros, Smash Boards, and r/SSBPM has been about Apex. And the Apex circuit has a really huge influence in the Melee world, and and vis-a-vis the PM world, because we're tied so closely to Melee. Nintendo's coming in. They wanna promote their game, Smash 4, and that's great. And Smash 4 deserves a chance to start a competitive scene. And Melee's grown even more, and they're in even better position than they were when Brawl came out to really push it forward. And people understand how to develop a metagame more. Smash 4 has a bright future, and it's great that Apex is facilitating that. On the other hand, Nintendo, of course, they're not in a position to acknowledge, to in any way support Project M. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way that, honestly, it's the way that copyright law works. That's the fundamental issue. PM is a cluster of hundreds of franchises. And in acknowledging us, Nintendo would be legally obligated, not forced, but obligated to do something about it. And really the position they're putting us in now, like excluding us, not, removing us from this tournament they're supporting, that's really, honestly, the most benevolent thing they could do for us. And I'm not saying it's good for us. I'm not saying it's what we want. It's obviously not. But I'm saying it's putting us in a position where we have to look forward and acknowledge that we have to start stepping up as a community focused on PM and start making things happen for ourselves outside of Melee, because Melee needs to do what's best for Melee. And that does not mean what's best for PM, as we've seen.
Yeah, and thinking about it from the Apex perspective, it puts them in a difficult position. Nintendo approaches them to do a sponsorship deal, or whatever they're going to end up doing for Apex. But there they are. There's the Nintendo logo right on the Apex website. It puts the Apex staff in a bit of a difficult position, because if they deny that sponsorship, it makes Project M look even worse. If we're the catalyst for Nintendo not being able to sponsor a big tournament like this, how quickly would we get the cease and desist from Nintendo on that type of a front? So it makes it more difficult. I understand the position that Alex Strife and everyone involved in Apex is in. And I think we're a little bit quick to judge. I see a lot of criticism about these decisions and the way it's being communicated on Twitter and on Reddit and on Facebook and everywhere else. And I think we just need to sort of measure our criticism against what we know and what we don't know. And I think at this point, all we know. Yeah, at this point, all we know is Nintendo's involved. Project M is not. So hashtag adapt. We need to adapt.
Hashtag adapt. Wow.
it's we just have to,
I think
recognize that this is an opportunity for us to be creative and grow in different ways, and that's actually really exciting because we can approach this in a way that maybe we're not used to doing. We're not used to. We don't have to think even about clamoring for Nintendo support. We don't need to think about getting certain kinds of sponsorships and stuff like that. We just have to do it all ourselves, and that's fine. I mean, I think it's actually really exciting. I mean, it's more positive than people give it credit for.
Mm-hmm. I think the one problem that I have with it, I mean, you're right, they are in a tough situation. It's just that I feel like I don't think we deserve an explanation. I just think that we should get one because
and I'm sure that we will.
Yeah, I'm sure that we will eventually. It's just that the way he's going about it and just saying, "Oh, this is knocked off," and no explanation. This is knocked off, no explanation. It's just like, what are you doing to the rest of the scene? What you got to think about what you're doing to the scene before you enact upon it, and that's why all the scenes are just freaking out.
And it's not
like you said, Apex has a huge influence on the Smash scene as a whole. It being sort of set up as the Super Bowl of Smash. I don't think you can count it as a grassroots tournament anymore, but it's definitely a major event for the Smash community, and that's. It's unfortunate that we can't be a part of it in a competitive sense, but that doesn't mean that we can't coexist, and it doesn't mean that we can't, still continue to coexist with the Melee community and the Brawl community and the Smash 4 community.
I said it this morning, and I'll say it again. In 2015, I want to see more nationals that say PM is on the main stage, Melee's just on the side.
And that's not like downplaying Melee.
Yeah, that's not downplaying Melee. That's just saying I just want more nationals that are focusing on the PM community.
The people who
the people that love the game as much as we do, and as much as a lot of the fans of the game do. There shouldn't be any reason why you wouldn't want to host a Project M focused tournament.
Which is why I have a big shout out to Pooch, because he just said that he's working on national for PM.
Oh, so that's great. Yeah, that's fantastic. Looking at as far as another great thing that will come about if Project M really starts to differentiate itself more as far as the group of people that put resources into hosting events and stuff. As it is now, like we were saying earlier, every Smash game is kind of rode on the foundation that Melee has set out in the Melee community. Like Melee, as a community of people, they put their resources that they've accrued over a decade and a half forward to promote games like Smash 4 and PM, and it's an amazing gift they've given us, but it's led to a fundamental issue in the Smash community, the way that people who focus on different games talk to each other, and it's always because we're technically actually competing for the resources, or PM competing for the resources of the Melee community, and even at the time Melee was competing for its own resources with Brawl, the people were leaving the Melee-focused community for Brawl, and it's always that has led to a sort of us versus them mentality. Which game is better has always been a discussion of which game deserves to be the most played or something. And in setting us up our own infrastructure to run tournaments, our own network of people in the scene across the world, because Smash has really gotten to a global point by 2015. If the more we make our own resources, the more we rely on the people in the PM community exclusively, the less I think those kinds of tensions in the Smash community will start to bubble up. Because maybe VGBC doesn't stream PM, but another big stream, just a great professional quality stream PM. Why would people in the PM community fight with the Smash 4 community if everyone's getting what they want?
Yeah. And I don't want to be too easy on Apex and Nintendo, but regardless of all the criticisms we might have of any of these decisions that they're making and how it affects us, we ultimately can't control what they do. We can't control how Alex Strife wants to grow his brand, and it's a decision that maybe if I were in his position, I would have made too. It's a big deal to have Nintendo sponsor your tournament.
He's basically on the watchtower, and we're all just people shouting up at the watchtower, and he just sees everything.
and instead of do that, why don't we just build another tower?
Yeah,
You know,
build
it's
our
not-
own tower.
You know, we have our criticisms. We have, it is a hurdle to climb. It is a thing in the way of our growth. You know, we've been growing at such an exponential pace since 3.02 and Apex 2014, and how many new fans that brought to our scene, and how many new players that brought to our scene. And it was a huge spotlight for us. But now it's, like you said, again, time to take the training wheels off. Time to stop relying on it and let's adapt and build a
Hashtag adapt.
community that can be even stronger. Build a community that can be even stronger.
All right. So this podcast moving forward to next week, like I was saying, this is episode 0. This is not an official episode. We're gonna have highlight reels from different areas of the scene that really don't get enough exposure. That people wouldn't be watching to make highlights in the first place. Great play that people would never really get a chance to witness otherwise. Match analysis. I'm definitely we want to have interviews with people all over the world in their scenes. I was just talking to Jama from Australia. We were talking about I think it was Shampoo Showdown 5, a big Australian major that happened fairly recently. I had never heard of it before, and that's a shame.
Either.
Yeah, that's a total shame, and I just don't want that to happen in the community anymore. And it's about making the Project M community and the stories consumable, because they're out there, and it's not that you couldn't find them before, it's that you would have to work to find them. And this podcast is about us putting in the work to find them for you. And so
let's make it easier for everybody.
Yeah.
So even in Melee, there's been issues with this. That kind of Thousand Islands but no boats issue. How many people knew what Yoshi could do until just recently with AMSA? How many people knew what Young Link could do until Armada started pulling that guy out against Hungry Paws? The history of Melee doesn't always lend itself to spotlight certain players and certain characters in the same way either. So it's good to see the VG Bootcamp stream and the Tourney Locator stream, and watch all the Mewtwo and Diddy Kong and Roy hype. But I think the more scenes we have exposure to, the more creative play you're going to see of all the different characters in the cast. And character spotlights is another thing we might end up doing.
Yeah,
character discussion.
Yeah. So and any kind of that type of content that you guys might want to see out there, give us a shout out on Twitter. We're taking suggestions. It is episode 0 after all.
We are taking any form of constructive criticism, any form of segment ideas, any form of anything that you would like to say. Hey, we would like this on the show, because really this is the community's show, not our show.
Yeah, and I want to reinforce, like we were talking about character spotlights and stuff, talking about the metagame and those discussions. Those wouldn't be just the 3 of us, just throwing out ideas about, hey, this is good in that situation. It would really be, it'd be a well-researched, outreach to the community, and talking to top players, talking to the people who are qualified to, give out that information. We're not trying to elevate ourselves as, personally to the kind of we're not trying to be celebrities. We're trying to make, not necessarily other people's celebrities, but we're trying to just grow the scene out of the darkness. And a great corollary, I was watching the finals for Beast 5. Holy crap. My hands are still kind of shaking from the Melee finals of Beast 5.
No spoilers. Yeah, I haven't watched them either. So.
But the European scene there's a lot of good parallels between European scene and the PM scene as a whole. Armando was saying that there were over 55 over 100 tournaments in the US last year, and there are only 2 in Europe. And there are tons of smashers in Europe all over, but it's just they're not connected. And Europe has done a great thing. They started this website, Smash Europe, and
I saw it.
And it's about networking all the existing capacity, the existing power of the community, in order to actually utilize it. Because unless you actually come together, you're only as powerful as the single individual. And that's what made the Melee community great, and that's what we gotta look forward to, working on to make the PM community great. And Europe's on there too with Melee, and we'll be reaching out to European PM scenes as well. Muffins in Ireland. And Ireland actually has a surprisingly great PM scene, and not a lot of people know about it.
I am absolutely.
And it's only going to blow up when PAL comes out.
Oh yeah, when PAL comes out, I'm so excited. And the people I've been talking to in Europe and Australia in the PAL regions are extremely excited too. Yeah, it'll be great.
And Project M is so much easier to transfer over from the US to Europe because it's the same version.
Yeah.
In Melee, you have Marth is worse, Fox is worse. It's because it's the PAL version, but this way we have a standard version.
The metagame will be consistent throughout the world, and that's going to be really great for pushing ourselves forward as an esport. Anything else you guys want to cover?
We're at
the half-hour mark.
I believe we should talk about where we are at. We have a email. We have projectpodcast@outlook.com. If you would like to send any guest ideas, if you would like to start networking with us, if you're a top leader in your community, you can send an email there, or you can message any of us on our Twitters. Next, we're at youtube.com/projectpodcast. We are here at twitch.tv/projectpodcast.
We'll be posting on the PM subreddit every time we have an episode, so you don't have to really go out and watch us. We'll make sure to put it on Reddit.
Every time there's the YouTube version uploaded, I believe we will have a SoundCloud and an iTunes set up pretty soon here. And
as far as like community leaders, we're not like, hey, everyone come to us. We made a podcast. You have to come talk to us if you want to get exposure. That's how this works. It's not how it's going to work. We're going to put a lot of work into reaching out to you guys, but it will always help that much more if you meet us halfway.
Yeah, we've already put in work. I've already talked to people in South Florida. I've talked to people in my own scene. We've talked to people in Alabama, Texas, people in California, people in Ireland, Sweden, lots of places already done.
Australia.
Oh, Australia as well.
And of course Canada.
And Canada.
Shout outs to Canada.
Lots of stuff already done because we've been putting in work to find you guys.
Yeah, this is not like a lot of people, I'm not like being negative about it, because it was a legitimate concern. As soon as we're like, hey, we're going to start a podcast, everyone's like, really? Are you really going to start a podcast? I'm not sure that we totally believe you, and that's a very legitimate thing to say, because honestly, these kinds of, community building projects have had a little trouble getting, started in the PM community, and that's really been because Melee has been such a strong supporting, foundation for us that we really, for the longest time, for the past couple of years, we really haven't needed to. We've been on the rise, just without even doing anything. I mean, I don't want to downplay the role the Melee community has done, because they've done literally everything for us. We owe them everything at this point. Yeah. We got to start, striking out on our own, guys. All right.
So we want to hear from you guys. We want to get as much feedback and as much content.
This podcast is not going to be showing of the final result. This is really just like a preliminary, like tip of the tongue taste of the podcast. Our production quality will be much better next week. Potentially we might have intros. We will have more crews. We will have Junebug here next week. We will have a personal experience from a Muffin about Beast.
Yeah, I'm gonna have some stat compilations on top players, and I'll present those. That'll be great. They'll be covering some 3.0 area, but people, that's still part of our history, and we should know about it.
Yeah, so be prepared for an amazing first episode. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
It's just what we're about, and we just want to. And also pushing like other projects that people, hoping to inspire other people to start up things. Even if it's another podcast, may the best podcast win.
Yeah, but we're just taking a step forward here, and we welcome anyone else to do the same. So,
and in fact that's what we need. That's the whole point of our podcast, is to encourage people to step up in their role in the Project M community. And I think that's good to leave it there.
That's about it.
All right, guys.
Yep, that about wraps it up.
Hope to talk to you guys pretty soon.
See you next week for episode 1.